Hello, I'm Carla Avila.
And I'm Copie Harris.
And we are here on our Magicticity series.
And Magicticity is a term that we invented. It's a combination of the words magic and authenticity.
And that is to help you become and present your most authentic self.
And achieve that magic that occurs that when you are presenting as your most authentic self, you have that almost electric connection with your audience, whether it's just one person or whether it's many.
And we will be having a series of tips and ideas on presenting your most authentic self.
Through podcasts and webcasts.
Exactly.
So let's start talking about our tip for today.
So today our topic is
panels and how to be a very successful moderator of a panel, but also how to be a good panel member.
Exactly. And I believe that one of the most important things is to prepare.
Yes.
And it's very interesting that many people get to panels as a participant or as a moderator, and they've never met the person before. And I would suggest that it's very important that not only do you contact the people that you will be working with way ahead of time. So just when you know that you will be on that panel, ask the organizers who else is on that panel and how can we connect. And I would suggest that you have at least one preparation meeting, and if you can, meet right before the event. Say, for example, the night before for dinner or drinks, or the morning for breakfast, so that you can actually get to know the people, because it'll be a very different panel.
Yeah, absolutely. When you have some knowledge of one another, and because then you'll converse with one another more naturally. I completely agree with you. And what I tell people to do when you're the moderator is that you should have at least 2 phone calls in advance, because sometimes people are in different countries or different parts of the same country and they can't meet personally. But if you have at least 2 phone calls before the panel, the first one would be, here's what the theme of this panel is planned to be. I would like from you, Ms. Panelist, to give me a set of questions that you would like to address that are related to this theme. And then you give that person time before your next phone call or next meeting to come up with those questions. And then you can start to figure out how you're going to do this. There's also timing.
Right.
We forget, what if you have 5 panelists in a 20-minute panel and you're the moderator? How much time does each person get? And that's something that's important for you to figure out so that one person doesn't dominate.
Right. And if you have the ability to have those questions ahead of time, and you have that second phone call, if there's an opportunity, or even meeting the night before.
Meeting the night before is great.
I think you have also the possibility of understanding where people have their opinions. So if they defer or they agree, and that's okay. It's great for people to defer. The most important thing is, how do you manage that in the panel? So as a moderator, and if you're not the moderator and you're one of the participants and you know that someone else has a different opinion, that's great. You already know probably what's coming, and you have the ability to really connect and say, look, I agree with your point X, Y, and Z, but this other point here, I have a different view. And then it's very nice that people actually see that you actually connect with other members on that panel. It's a much nicer dialogue and much nicer conversation, and I think people benefit from that planning.
And let's talk about what an ideal panel is, because my clients sometimes seem to get confused about this. From my perspective, an ideal panel is as though the panelists are sitting in a living room having a natural conversation, and we are honored to be flies on the wall. We're honored to be hearing this dialogue that's very natural and interactive and exciting. But sometimes my clients want to have slides. Everybody has slides behind them. Well, that's not actually a panel, that's a presentation. And it often is very, very challenging to orchestrate that. If you find that people are showing slides, then maybe it's not a panel. Make it a series of presentations rather than a panel discussion.
Right. Or if you have, let's say, an hour or an hour and a half, then you can have a few minutes each to have their presentation, their slides, and then you have the dialogue, but not trying to
do both. Yeah, so that would be one of our number one tips, is that a panel is a conversation that's meant to be dynamic and natural and real, and that we are in the audience honored to be happening to be listening and watching that panel.
Yes, and I would say that also we will be having a conversation only on questions, but I think it's important that when you have a panel and you have questions, you allow people time to think about those questions and allow people to come forward with questions, so that it's really a complete event, and the audience participates in that dialogue.
Yeah, that's really very important as well. And one of the things we're going to talk about at a different point is how you can encourage audience participation and audience questions, and how to coordinate. A question has come in, what's the moderator's role when that question comes in from an audience member, and how does the moderator throw that question to the panelists? And we might want to talk about this further in another podcast or webcast, because it's actually a pretty big topic.
Yes. So in summary, plan, dialogue, have that great meeting or conversation before you meet, and then have a nice time for questions.
Yes, allow that time.
Exactly.
And if you'd like to work with us one-on-one, or you'd like to work with us in a group, or if you'd just like to give us some feedback, which we would love to have from you, please reach out to us
at magicticity.com.
Contact.
Yes,
Magicticity.
Contact at magicticity.com.
Contact at magicticity.com. Thank you.